on the advisory committee. And the survey has been spread out, the responses from all over the city. So that's planning. It's tough. And we'd love to hear from you all what that means to you. Yeah, and we actually gave that to Planning Commission so they knew what was in their district because they're on an advisory committee, and we can do the same. We'll give you the full package of the survey. You're going to do some wading through it. There's a lot of, as you can imagine. What you're seeing as far as those written responses are just what we tried to capture is getting a little taste of everything. It's fun if you want to read through that, and we'll break it down by district. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we probably took that off for the website just for what if there was one person in one of the districts, right? But we'll give that to you. Some of it you'll see all caps, and you can hear people yelling at you through the survey, which is wonderful.
I wanted to ask about
Prizes?
any questions that prizes. I was kind of surprised that there wasn't excitement about a Main Street. Past area, and now we've got a new fire department that's going to end up there. Kind of seemed like it was a ops. I'm not sure if that's
I'm not sure they understood
they
what Main
understood.
Street was.
Right, I
I
think
think
you're
to have
right.
a certain area of town where you focus business. Main Street, impression of, oh, well, that's,
I think that has a lot to do with it.
That's actually something we've been discussing with the advisory committee as well as within your future land use map. You might be interested to see that. From the survey data and the conversations, we haven't ruled out the Main Street. There's definitely people torn on it. What we're trying to do is what is palatable, right? And what makes sense there. You've got it zoned commercial, right? So it's kind of what type of commercial at this point, right? Unless you were to zone that to something.
I really think there's been interest in having like a place to go buy a hamburger or things like get your hair cut,
We hear so much about the historic hair shop.
right? Anyway, so I think a lot of that is what are we all interpreting what a Main Street is saying?
Let's keep going through this and we'll see
All
if
right.
we get any answers and we can go back.
We also set up maps. We had the existing future land use maps, the future land use map that's in your currently adopted general plan. We put out that one. We put out a parks map and a transportation map. They were here in the town hall, and we also had them online so people could comment in person or they could. Like I mentioned before, this didn't get a ton of feedback. We had 16 map comments, but for the existing map, there were 3 comments about modifying the R2 zone, about rezoning lower density area to R2, 1 comment about liking the map as it. For the transportation map, garnered 1 comment, liking the map, investigating your roads, and seeing if those just adding bike lanes and adding sidewalks. So again, that and And on the Parks and Trails map, there were 3 comments on connecting the trails together and 2 comments on adding more.
About these focus really quickly. Some of you may have been present in a few of these, but we had 4 focus group topic areas. So we had land use and housing, commercial development, transportation, and open space and recreation. These groups were formed based on community interests. We asked community members in the first survey if they might be interested in something like this, and if so, which topic. And then also invitations of advisory committee from the advisory committee of people that they know that are already interested in one of these topics. And these have met times, both via Zoom. We had really great conversations. I think each of them ran up right to the time that we had available. We got really good feedback from these focus groups that you really can't get from us. So those were. Okay, and so now we're kind of to this question of the future land use map. It's not terribly off from where it seems most people want to go. The question has really been about residential densities and a few other tweaks. For example, the change we might make to that future land use map, if just so you can see where those would fall. But it's a balancing act of all these different public opinions. As you read through survey comments, you'll see that there's a spectrum of what public opinion really means. More than one opinion. We're looking at data and existing conditions. We've done a lot of existing conditions analysis, which will be an appendix item within our general plan, so you can see what it looked like when the plan was formed, and then our advisory committee local expertise. Here, this is a draft, and in fact, already an outdated draft of a future land use map concept that we're working on. That's exactly what you were saying, Councilmember Paulson, about more of a concentric city where there's a node that is the commercial hub, and then from there, it kind of a fall in density. We've talked a little bit with a expert in floodplains, and we're going to chip in a little bit of funding for them to give us a little bit of additional advice on really what can be done at a general plan level. That's probably recommendations for either future ordinances, kind of an overlay. But we just want to make sure we're understanding that issue before adopting a general plan that has, whatever in the more flood prone areas, which we know it's a dry year, so we don't want to forget about that this year. We'll continue to talk with them and continue to talk with our advisory committee about this map. We'll come out in some form of a public event that's fully fleshed out yet toward early fall or end of summer, and to you as well when it's a little bit more complete. I'm not going to dive into this too much, but I just want you to know that as we do this, we're crunching some numbers. We're looking at how many future units might be produced by this future land use map as opposed to what you have. Some of that's looking at your existing zoning, right, and comparing that as well. We want to look at total acreage developed. There's all kinds of strategies out there floating around that can change that number regardless of the number of units. We want to look at all of this data as we go, so we're not just planning in a fairy tale land. Reactions so far? Land use map, I know you saw a quick glimpse. It's really not to a point where we can redline it yet.
There's just an awful lot to it. There really is. There's things like we've addressed. How do we expand our cemetery? How do we water? Actually have areas that possible well site. And I think we're addressing important. Have ordinance help
much of your ordinances are already in place doing what you need it to do, but this plan should reflect that too. It should kind of go both. General
What-
planning isn't so general, is it?
So this future use is just, what's the difference when you have up?
This one has, so it has a little bit more focus of residential density around what would be that commercial center at 55 and 55, as well as the other commercially zoned area. And it's probably not projecting super well, but that's the low density residential. Oh. Yeah, I can't even tell the difference. Projector can't capture that, those shades of yellow.
It's adding minimum density.
Actually, it's much
Less minimum density?
in its draft form right now, yes. Mm. Yeah,
So you're trying to change medium density to low density?
it forces some of the density to that center, but again, this is still, we're probably showing it prematurely because we're still right there in the conversation advisory committee.
Can you go back to that one more time? Sorry. So look, the orange is high density. High density residential is orange. So we're saying we want high density around 55 and 55. Is that what we're saying? According to that map? Right, right.
We want that feedback as we draft this and work on this.
And according to our surveys, nobody wants high density. So why are we even creating more high density when nobody wants it?
I actually think much of that was there in your future land use map already. Yeah, that's the old one. And if our colors look a little different, it's tried to, well, we're having a hard time seeing them. So we did recolor it. So if your orange was something higher,
Yeah, there's a lot more high density on the new one.
what was that? Yeah, I think we're getting right about there with our advisory committee. We've only actually met with them about this one time. Yeah, I think once we get a little closer, we're happy to come up here and do some workshop. Everything's fitly and everything, and however you'd like to kind of take a bite at this, and we'll have that public event as well. We'd probably like it to further along for that public event, so we're getting the fine tuning done there rather than a full overhaul after we have that.
Could a focus group be just made of large landowners?
Stakeholder group, sure.
Right? People that own more than an acre.
A great idea. We're getting the feeling that several of them have been involved throughout the process, but that's a great idea. Yeah. Not gathered together in one meeting.
like to see what they say.
So one more question on that map, open space, that greenish color, all those parcels to the west that are, I think they're that color, is that, how did all that get designated open space? The dark green,
That hasn't been changed.
no, the parcels. No, all the individual parcels. All the darker green from the light green. That's that color? That's the wetlands. No, yeah, that's open space. To me, that's that darker green color.
Not people that have asked for agriculture.
So the open space is like the city building corner there, right?
Yes.
No, that's Parks and Cemetery. So,
Yeah, they do well. Yeah, they
point
can-
to an
they can-
open space place on the map there.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
No,
I've seen that many come.
open space. No, that's wetlands.
I don't know what they did before. Didn't you?
The blue west there, you've got the wildlife and waterfowl areas as well.
So our wetlands is open space. Okay, just checking.
Where are you pointing?
Um,
I still worry about that with acre lots. I don't know. You'd have
At some point, when we get a draft of this complete with
do
the
what I
advisory
go by.
committee, we'll go back and compare side by side. We're open to criticism on our colors too. Okay, we're gonna talk about the draft general plan a little bit. It's also just in the hands of the advisory committee for the first time,
probably.
but we'll give you a look at what we're doing. All right, so the draft document's probably about 85%. It includes all the general planning requirements required by state law. It has an introductory chapter that background on Hooper as a community. It talks about the vision. It talks about, then it goes into the topical elements. So we talk about land use and housing, commercial uses, transportation, parks, recreation, and open spaces, and floodplains and water sensitive. So these are some examples of infographics that we have in the general plan. So a really great way to get a quick snapshot of like an introduction to Hooper. Second one is about the community engagement that's happened throughout the process. So each topical element starts with the goals, and back we got to that element. So example from the transportation chapter. So we're talking about the comments in the surveys or in the focus. And then you'll see throughout the plan, yellow box, planning concepts in more detail. I wanted to make this a readable plan so anyone could pick it up. And we also include these boxes in the plan and have little quotation marks, and they're quotes from residents outreach. So another way to tie in input and show how for each topical element, we also have existing conditions, and so this is basically the data dump. So information that come from reliable calculations we've made of different land uses,
up the percent of the total area and the percent of developed or developable area that they take. And then we heard that one goal for this general plan was that it actions more easily and that it could be read. So for the end of each chapter, we have strategy tables, have the goals up top, and then we have the strategies that help you work to accomplish that goal. And then with those, we have responsible party might be, an estimated timeline, a metric to know if that strategy is accomplished, and then if there are any great resources that we know of found to help implement that strategy.
Have feedback coming, and we know you've had a little bit already, but any early feedback on this draft or anything else for us?
You say you have a copy for us? You have a hard
Don't
copy?
have a copy of the general plan, but of this presentation with some more slides in there with the survey summaries. Coming soon, though, let's amongst yourself discuss when you'd like to see a work session or anything of the sort on this. We're happy to do this your way, however it is. Our job is really just to listen. We love planning. We love getting to know new communities, but we don't know this community like you do at all. Got a few trips to Hooper under our belt. That's nothing compared to living here and knowing the community and the people in it every day. And so we have to get this right. You'll see that it's wrong if we bring it to you and we didn't listen, right?
I guess I have one question, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I noticed on the advisory committee, the entire planning commission was invited to participate on that, but the entire city council was not. Why was that?
City staff made the decision of who's on the advisory committee.
That's great.
My knowledge, we were given an advisory committee. Planning commission is typically an invite to an advisory committee for a plan like this. And we'd have a quorum every time if the,
I think it would be important not to have too many advisory committee, otherwise city council meeting, number one, so that's got legal problems, but beyond that, the logical council planning group,
No, I wasn't.
way the group.
No, I wasn't. I was disinvited.
So anyway, that's thought.
I got uninvited. But we have a quorum, of the planning commission.
Okay.
Every time we meet.
You really only have one representative. Not as a city council. They have a form of them.
we are happy to revise that advisory committee as well, however the city sees fit.
I think one's fine, but I think to have many more than that, I think one is kind of the communication
So we
back.
have two,
We'll
right?
say that Councilmember Cox has been a great help.
Where you were on the council.
You're still on there and you're a council member. Just wondered how that worked. I don't know.
We want to make it what it needs to be, so we can change it midway.
How that works.
I wish we could have you all better.
And the reason I asked that question, because Chris alluded to this earlier, is at some point the city council has to vote on this general plan, correct? We like it, we don't like it. It'd be nice to be involved in the whole process from day one. I've never had an invitation to a meeting. I'll go through, anyway.
He's my boss. I
It
just
would've been
listen.
nice to be involved from day one instead of day 365, just so we know what's going on. But I appreciate you coming and presenting today.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not your fault.
Oh, we could have scoped that differently. Certainly, a big part of everything we've been doing is just data gathering, and we're just getting to the point where we're having the discussion. So I think it's coming at a time when there's nothing set in stone, right? And even when this begins process, any formal process, we anticipate making as needed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our contact is up here. We do want to hear from you. The more the merrier. That's fine. And we're open to whatever process you would like. If and each city is different. Function with work sessions, and you want to do something like that, that works great. We've done joint planning commission, city council work sessions, tend to be very productive. Happy to do this in whatever format you'd like. Yes. Advisory committee meeting starts at 7 here in person. Okay, thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, at this point on the agenda, we would open this up to citizens' comments. Here that has comments, invite you to the. Seeing none, we'll close the citizens' comment. Bring it back to the council. Any discussion? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Look unanimous, so thank you.